Hi folks, the Filipino P here, and it's time for another installment of my most popular series, Mailbag Friday. It's always interesting to hear about the unusual situations you guys find yourselves in, so keep those emails coming. Today, we've got a physically disabled man confined to a wheelchair who's wondering about his prospects. Another man who's interested in finding that elusive Filipina who doesn't want children. And a guy who's undecided about bringing his beautiful Filipina back to the West for fear she might jump ship once she realizes how gorgeous she is to Western eyes. So buckle up and get ready for a heaping helping of other people's problems. This one's gonna be good. So our first email comes from Demi in Canada. Demi writes, "Hello, Miss P. First off, I'd like to say I've been a fan of your channel for a while now, with my favorite video being the zombie apocalypse survival video. I'd certainly feel safe with you around." Wow, thanks, Demi. That's still one of my favorites too, along with my MTV music video. But it's kind of weird how the ones I love the best are also the ones that get the least views. I have no idea why it's like that, but I'll just keep doing what I do and let the people decide. Anyway, I have a question that I don't think you've ever talked about. I've been curious for a long time about different cultures' views on disabled people. I rarely see anyone talk about it in any videos, maybe because the number of people who'd be interested in such a subject are quite limited. Oh, you'd be surprised, Demi, because I also get a lot of emails and questions about the topic, so you're not alone. To give you a little context, I'm a 40-something-year-old handicapped Canadian guy who's in an electric wheelchair. I have a master's degree in translation, and I work from home as a translator between French and English. I'm slowly working on adding Japanese to the list as well. Wow, that's very impressive. I'm missing my left hand and arm up to my elbow, which I use to drive my chair. And my right hand is pretty useless too, except for holding the stick that I type on the computer with while using my mouth. And I control the mouse with my feet. My disabilities are only physical, and my mind is just as sharp as anyone else's. Many people assume that you can't just be physically disabled, but you must have something wrong mentally as well. So my question is, how is the accessibility in the Philippines? And more importantly, what are the people's views on disabled people? Of course, I know you can't speak for everyone, but it would be nice to hear their general attitude, yours included. Are people from the Philippines, both men and women, open to being friends with, dating, or marrying a disabled person, knowing that they may need help doing certain things? Well, I'm happy to answer your question, Demi, and as I mentioned earlier, it's one I get all the time. First, let me say that our attitudes towards the disabled don't match our commitment to their comfort. If you live in a bigger city, you'll find some level sidewalks and inclined ramps. They'll give you access to many businesses, but you'll have a hard time using public transportation. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen a bus that was handicapped friendly here in the Philippines, so if you don't have your own car, it might be really difficult to get around. Even if you could somehow drive yourself or hire a driver, our parking spaces are cramped and tiny, which would make it tough to squeeze in and out of your vehicle. And once you leave the city, it gets much worse. There aren't many sidewalks, and there's often only a tiny strip of uneven pavement to walk on. A lot of times, there are places that even fully abled people have trouble getting through. Overall, if you had a significant disability that required a wheelchair and you didn't have the use of your hands, I'm afraid you'd have a really hard time just leaving your house. I don't know if you're living independently or if you live with a caretaker, but here in the Philippines, many of our disabled folks are kind of stuck at home and being taken care of by family members. So if you came here, you might want to look into hiring a live-in helper, which is not very expensive at all. The downside is that you might not be getting out much. But as far as our attitudes, you'll find that Filipinos are the most welcoming people on earth. We don't see you as a disabled person. We see you as a person who happens to have a disability. Lots of Filipinos have imperfections from mild to extreme, and it's almost never treated like a big deal. We're a nation of natural caregivers, and a huge number of us are nurses. No one will stare at you, for the most part, and many Filipinas have absolutely no problem dating or marrying a guy with a disability. Now here's where I'm gonna get the inevitable comments like, oh, Filipinos don't care about anything as long as they get your money. And, crap like that. But those people just don't understand our culture. In many places where you live, the disabled or infirm are sometimes treated like rejects, as if their conditions are somehow contagious. But that's not what you'll find here in the Philippines. We actually value our elders and people with special needs. And yes, a Filipina can definitely fall in love with you despite your issues. There are plenty of disabled foreigners here who can back up what I'm saying. So the Philippines might not be the best fit for you right now, but once our infrastructure catches up with our attitudes, it could be the perfect place for you. I hope that helped, Emmy, and best of luck to you, my friend. Next, we have an email from Carl who lives in the US. Carl writes, Miss P, let me start off by saying how much I love your channel. I've been binge watching it for the last week and I've seen almost all your videos. Binge watching? I love you already, Carl. I think you'd make a great journalist because sometimes you sound like a news anchor. And I love how your mind can go into the gutter at times for laughs. At times, my mind stays in the gutter. Thank you very much. Anywho, the reason I've been watching your videos is because I'm thinking of visiting and possibly moving to the Philippines. I'm from the US, but I'm not the typical Westerner, and I look at life differently than most people. I had a few questions to see if it's even possible to find someone unique like me. I do like the idea of provincial women in general, but because of how I am, I'm not sure if any Filipinas would accept me. And now Carl's got a series of questions, so I'm going to answer them one by one instead of answering them all together at the end, so I don't have to remember. So first, his question, I don't believe in marriage and have always refused the idea, mainly because of how it is in the Western culture. Are there Filipinos that are not interested in marriage? I may perhaps change my mind for the right person, especially since prenups are actually enforced there. Okay, the thing you gotta understand is that marriage is still the ultimate goal for most Filipinos because in our culture, it means a lifetime commitment. If a woman just agrees to live with a guy, she kind of feels like she's not good enough to commit to. And there's always the fear that once she gains a few pounds or hits the wall, a guy's gonna start looking somewhere else, and suddenly she'll be kicked out on her expanding ass with nothing to show for it and nowhere to turn. In my country, a middle-aged woman can just reinvent herself the way a Western woman can, and it's almost impossible to find a job once you're past your 30s. Women have a really short shelf life here, and not many guys are interested in sour milk. So it's important that we feel like we've got someone who's gonna stay with us through the curdling process. That being said, yes, there are Filipinas who don't require marriage, especially the ones who are already legally married and aren't in a position to walk down the aisle anyway. I've already told you what I think about getting involved with someone in that situation, but the good news is there are also some single Filipinas who feel the same way. I personally know several women who are perfectly content being with their foreign partner, with no plans at all to get married. It's just that you'll have to look a little harder to find one. Just please be honest about your intentions right from the start. Number 2. This one I'm a little more strict about. Having children is of zero interest to me. I want to spend my days enjoying my time with my lady and doing things together. In Western culture, children are typically the beginning of the end of a relationship. Carl, that's horrible! And so true. I'm always working to improve the quality of us as a couple, while also trying to help make her life as easy as possible, while sprinkling in some romance. Are there Filipinas that are not interested in having children? The answer to that question is a lot like the first. It's almost the duty of a Filipina to reproduce, and she's under heavy pressure from her family to do so. Fortunately, not every Filipina listens to her mom. I'm living proof of that. So you have two options, my friend. Number one is find a woman who already has kids that are grown up, or a Filipina who just doesn't want any, which is a small number, but still doable. Let's answer your question number 3. I'm not yet at retirement age, but it seems like my generation will not have Social Security, nor will anyone born after the 1960s. So in case I have to continue making money as a trader, my question is this. How hard would it be to acquire electronics? I would need a computer, several monitors, and a decent internet of at least 100 Mbps. Are these things I can easily get there? Easily, no problem. You might have to pay more for them, and if you live outside the city, you might want to use Starlink like I do. But sure, no big deal. We got you covered. We might not be the most advanced country, but we're not the Flintstones. So, number 4. This one's a little more spicy. How are women with body hair? I know in one of your videos, women were saying they don't shave their legs. And it doesn't seem like they need to anyway. But what about their armpits? And what about where the lumbers? Ooh, okay. So, Filipino body hair 101. Well, first let me make a distinction between city girls and province girls. City girls are much more likely to eliminate as much body hair as possible. Sometimes even all of it, if you know what I mean. But women from the provinces are quite a bit different. And since you said those were the ones you're interested in, I'll give you the lowdown. As far as the legs, you're right. Most Filipinos don't shave even when we need to. It's true that we're not especially hairy. Like for instance, I haven't shaved my legs in months, but some of us can grow a pretty impressive amount of fur there. Same thing with armpits. We usually don't shave because we don't need to. But in the case of a Filipina that does need to, she'll probably use tweezers to pluck each hair individually. Yes, ouch. Now as far as down under, or the tresses hidden by dresses, most provincial Filipinos don't do much maintenance there either. In other words, it's a jungle out there. The thing is, it's not considered unattractive in our culture. So if you fall in love with a Wookiee, you might have to convince her to make friends with a razor. Well, I hope I answered all your questions, Carl, even if it wasn't what you wanted to hear. And finally, we have an email from James, who's also from the US. James says, Dear P, I came to the Philippines 6 years ago with no intention of looking for a mate, but you can guess how that turned out. By the end of my first year, I'd met the perfect woman, and I married her 10 months later. Everything's been going just fine between us, but I've started missing home, and I really want to move back to the US. See, that's what can happen after a few years. The Philippines can start to wear on your nerves, and some of you guys that plan to retire here start having second thoughts. When you remember what it's like to have a juicy steak or live in a place where things run smoothly. The thing that makes me hesitate, though, is my wife. Now, I know that every guy says this, but my wife is objectively the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen. She could easily be a beauty queen by any standard, and she never fails to elicit stares from any foreigner she passes. In the Philippines, that's no problem because I'm decent looking myself, and there's not enough guys here to act as a competition. Even though we've never had issues with trust or loyalty, I'm just worried about the future. I'm getting older, and she still has many years of youth ahead. My nightmare scenario would be exposing her to an endless supply of younger, hotter, richer guys who constantly pay her compliments while trying to seduce her. Things between us are fine right now, but what about when the 7-year itch starts? Would I be a total fool to take her back to the States? Or am I overthinking things? Any help would be appreciated. Wow, James, it's almost impossible for me to predict the outcome of your particular situation. So the best I can do is refer you back to one of my very first videos called Your Place or Mine, where I not only talk about the dangers, but also give you a 5-point checklist to determine your level of risk. As for the 7-year itch, I think they've now determined that it's actually the 3-year itch. And since you've already been together longer than that, it's a point in your favor. But in short, it's not so much about looks. It's about what kind of person she is on the inside. And yes, people change over time, especially if the marriage no longer fulfills each of your needs. Now, you didn't tell me your respective ages, and I wish you had, because as a general rule, the bigger the age gap, the riskier the move. But age isn't the only factor. Her level of maturity is also a critical component, and that's something that only you can evaluate. Now, when I was in the US for 3 months, I didn't hardly get any looks at all, but a beautiful woman like your wife is gonna get bombarded with constant offers and temptations. And yes, some of those guys are gonna be younger and hotter and richer than you. But you have to ask yourself, what is it that your wife values? Is it you and your relationship, or the excitement of something new and better? The answer to that question makes all the difference, because if you get it wrong, you'll definitely regret trading your wife for a juicy steak. Check out my old video and think long and hard, my friend. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope half of you enjoyed it twice as much as you deserve. I'll be back on Tuesday with something I know you'll enjoy. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm like Bond, James Bond, delivering classified intelligence for your eyes only. With a license to kill misinformation and bad advice, it's my mission to get you the truth about the Philippines. All I ask for my secret service is that you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and visit my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive features. And while you're waiting for your next debriefing, check out some of my other videos too. Well, that left me shaken, but not stirred.